大家好，我叫司马博文，我是英国的环境的科学家。生态文明将成为后燃烧文明。In this seminar on the theory and practice of ecological civilization in the Yellow River Basin, I want to talk a bit about some concepts that can help to achieve a rapid reduction in the causes of climate change and to put those into the context of ecological civilization. Ecological civilization in the Yellow River Basin. Well, it's a big concept encompassing the whole way of life, social structures, politics, attitudes, our relationship with nature, plans for spatial and industrial development, how to live more in harmony with the environment. And within this, faced with the climate crisis, an important aspect is to transform our infrastructure and our behaviours such that they are no longer contributing to further dangerous climate change. Where possible, we need to utilise ecological processes to reverse climate change and restore the health of our atmosphere. So, what is the cause of climate change? Greenhouse gas emissions, yes, but what is the cause of greenhouse gas emissions? Combustion. It is the combustion of biomass and fossil fuels that gives rise to most of the greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. 80% of all greenhouse gas emissions are from burning things. And it is combustion that has allowed us to build our modern industrial society with all its wealth and its comforts. We're addicted to combustion and the energy that it provides, but our atmosphere does not have the capacity to hold the pollution. And with more than 80% of our energy use through direct combustion of fossil fuels, and the other 20% maybe is through electricity, and then that electricity is still produced mostly by combustion, that means 94% of all of our energy use is through combustion and leading to those greenhouse gas emissions. Our world is burning and we have to change. We have to transition to using non-combustion systems. We have to build combustion out of our infrastructure and out of our machines. When thinking of ecological civilization, combustion is about more than just greenhouse gases, though. It's also fundamental to the very processes of life. Combustion is a process that only arises because of life, and it represents the destruction of what the life processes have given us. Now, that may seem like a strange statement, but when you think about it, it's true. Only living processes actually separate the elements into an unstable equilibrium between plants with carbon in organic matter and oxygen in the atmosphere. When the first dried out plant material was struck by lightning and caught fire, burning in an oxygen-rich atmosphere that photosynthesis had created, this was the first fire. It was hundreds of millions of years ago, but before that, volcanoes, lightning, even the sun itself, they are heat and plasma. They are not fire or combustion. Only life gives rise to fire, and through fire and combustion comes the destruction of life's matter. The processes of life take a very long time to accumulate the fuel for fire, and even longer to create and maintain the atmosphere, a free oxygen atmosphere in which it can burn. But the combustion, when it happens, is fast, rapid, final, a return to a chemical equilibrium, a death. Harnessing fire allowed humans to evolve and dominate the earth. All that we do has been powered by fire. Cooking food allowed us to extract more energy, to have a big and powerful brain, support time for social life. With fire, we cleared our forests, became agricultural. With the heat of fire, we spread and survive in cold climates. With charcoal and furnaces, we can extract and forge metals. with the heat of combustion, make bricks and cement to build and bind our urban environment. Fossil fuels allow us to utilize the energy laid down over hundreds of millions of years by the stages of evolution. It was fossil fuel combustion that drove the Industrial Revolution and created the modern industrial society. Combustion for heat, combustion for power now drives our industrial processes, heats our homes, and powers our travel. Yet, as we plunder the great treasure of life that is stored in the earth over billions of years, so we release its curse. The products of combustion are poisonous and destructive. More challenging still are the greenhouse gas effects. At the rate we're going, most of the fossilized fuel will be consumed in a generation, and our atmosphere simply doesn't have the capacity to absorb all the gases released without causing dramatic changes in our climate. But we do have alternatives, and we have them now. We have the technology to generate non-combustion electricity from renewable and nuclear sources at a low enough cost that it's economically viable to make that transition in our energy supply. Non-combustion sources can provide the power we need to further develop our industrial systems. A non-combustion energy future can actually offer greater energy intensity and abundance than our current fossil fuel system can. It need never run out of fuel or fill our atmosphere and our lungs with harmful gases. Focusing on removing combustion is actually a very powerful way of focusing on where to direct our efforts in the transition to a sustainable society, an ecological civilization. Now, the outcomes may be very similar to focusing on carbon and net zero principles. But as we have discovered, trying to set up carbon taxes, trading systems, and plan economic developments based on the principles of carbon accounting gets very complicated very fast. What we need is a combustion transition, moving away from using combustion in our systems. So what I want to set out today are some simple principles that can help to achieve this. So the main ideas behind combustion transition are to find a faster road to an ecological civilization. So what are these main principles? Number one, combustion is always a closed process. You can count what goes into a combustion chamber, you can measure the energy, you know what comes out. It's basic physics and chemistry. The advantage of looking at that is it simplifies what you're looking at. You focus on what is a closed system, you only need to consider that. Also, it is in the combustion chamber that fossil fuels are realized for their economic value. Yeah. Also, it's at the point of combustion that you release greenhouse gas emissions, cause that air pollution, and are depleting your resources. Combustion processes also tend to have very high health and safety risks. A lot of people die in the extraction and the processing of them, and many social equity issues. You need to focus on that combustion chamber because it's not the fuels that are a problem. They're not a problem until you burn them. Also, there are always people who are responsible for the combustion in the chamber that they own. Yeah, all combustion processes have a purpose. Somebody's benefiting from them, making money, and you need to hold them accountable at the point of combustion, not running it upstream to wherever things came from or downstream to where you may make it some sort of compensation. Look at the real heart of the problem. It's when you burn it, the point of burning. And for doing this, under the principles of combustion transition, I propose a set of metrics, ways of measuring combustion and using that as a tool for managing development. And that is about looking at each combustion process in terms of the energy that is released in it, the efficiency with which that's turned into useful work, the greenhouse gases emissions associated with it, also the air pollution impact in terms of its impact on health and well-being, and also the overall resource depletion in terms of loss of natural capital. So these are the tools that can be used in this process. Now, let's look a little bit more about how you go about eliminating combustion, because it's really, really useful. Why do we use it? It's in our infrastructure, and we have it there because of the services that we get from the infrastructure. So think about that service and think about how you can get that same service from a non-combustion process. You also have to consider in the infrastructure that there are really three main elements to it. There is the operation. Those are the emissions during use, yeah, the running of the processes. And you need to design those out of the asset, and you also need to tax that operation to incentivize change. There's also the capital element, the systems which are actually installed, the buying of the combustion systems and all of the equipment around them. And you need to incentivize people to take alternative choices. And there's the material that everything is built from. Yeah, the concrete, the glass, the steel. We need to eliminate the use of combustion in the production of those materials, because once they are combustion free, you are no longer limited in your use of them. It's no good to try and use less. Yeah, that's a useful start, but you need to make them combustion free. So you need to address the embodied carbon at the point of production, not at the point of consumption. Another principle is that efficiency makes transition easier, but it's not actually an end in itself. So if you make your house more efficient, better insulated, it's easier to go to a non-combustion process because you don't need as much of it. But if you are heating your house by a non-combustion, non-polluting process, it isn't actually a problem anymore. If you use twice as much energy, that doesn't actually matter as far as the atmosphere and the ecology is concerned. So a post-combustion civilization can actually be very high energy intensity and can still have high economic growth. It's not limited. However, it's the materials that you have available to use, the resources, which could be the greater limit, not the energy. It is possible to have a lot of energy through renewable and nuclear sources. And this is illustrated by the ideas of the circular economy. You have to bear in mind that reprocessing, purifying, recovering materials, this is a high energy activity. So a circular economy, an efficient society will be high energy. And this has implications for also how you use your resources, how you plan your land, because we also need to be reabsorbing some of that carbon from the atmosphere. And we need to be, that's going to take a lot of land. We need to let the land heal. This means using less of the land for agriculture. To do that, we actually have to use some of that land in a very high intensity, high energy manner, and then allow more biodiverse, lower intensity use of land everywhere else. So this has great implications for your ecological planning, your ecological delineation, spatial planning of your river basin, and the ways in which you plan the development. You need to rebuild those life processes that created the disequilibrium, which is the hallmark of life. You know, recreate those processes that separate carbon and oxygen, reverse the combustion. And we need to allow biodiversity, the healing of land, healing of the water, bringing it back to health. So, combustion transition methodology, you know, how we go about this, it's about transition. So it's not just about the end goal of having a completely combustion-free, sustainable society. You've got to think about the steps along the way. You need to focus on those non-combustion systems that can deliver the services that the combustion ones did. So you've got to substitute, you've got to work out how to do that. And you have to phase out, I think it's better to phase out combustion from the point of demand, going back through the system. So think not just, oh, how can we produce more energy, but think about removing the combustion engine as the system of drive, replace it with electric drive. Go back to the user. It doesn't matter where the electricity comes from, eliminate where a combustion process can be substituted. So if you're using a boiler in a building to heat it, replace it with a heat pump, get the electricity from somewhere, be responsible for the combustion process. And you need to take this in stages and also maintain resilience. You don't have to go straight to the final solution. Sometimes you'll need to keep certain combustion processes there. Some things are more difficult than others. And in order to incentivize this process, to incentivize this change, we need to develop some economic measures. And what I propose here is a system called Combustion Transition Funds. The principle of these is that within each sector of the economy, each area where you're using combustion, say steel industry, motor cars, heavy freight, shipping, cement production, any of these areas, on each combustion process, you place a small levy. This goes into a fund which is maintained by the industry body. This can be used to facilitate research and development into non-combustion processes, finding the alternative to the use of combustion in the process. And this fund can also then be used to accelerate the transition from combustion to non-combustion processes. The key is that this is always maintained very close to each sort of combustion process in a sector, so that the people who understand that process in that context, they have control of that fund. And you have a lot of different funds in different sectors of the economy, and they're all tailored to those particular needs. But it's the idea of keeping things simple, keeping focused on the closed combustion process. So, to summarize, we've got a burning world, we're burning it up, but we need to find that simple solution. And combustion transition allows us to solve these problems by extinguishing one fire at a time. Simplify, focus on the closed process, focus on combustion, and see who is responsible for that. And that they can be controlled. And you need to understand, have metrics to quantify, and you've got to measure to manage. So you need to be able to quantify that combustion and have metrics to understand how to manage it. And those metrics can integrate the climate change with health, with wealth, with economic measures. And this can inform policies and action on a sector by sector basis to build towards a carbon neutral economy. Those economic measures can be the most effective things in accelerating the transition. And most of all, I think, combustion transition, it builds a positive message about how to make the changes. This is about looking at a believable and workable methodology, and to support ecological civilization. So that's my conclusion. 生态文明将成为后燃烧文明. Thank you.